How's everybody doing today? We're here on another Sunday with Upstream number 8. You know, I'm kind of surprised by our consistency that we haven't like fallen out. This has been 2 months straight that we've been doing this, so
Round
kudos
of
all around to
applause.
us guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how we do it. I don't know how we do it.
Wait,
Definitely not.
wait, wait. So is
Thank
Upstreet longer than the Z3's been out? Right?
probably. That's what it feels
Oh
like.
yeah.
That's major.
Milestones.
We make more money than the Z3. No, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
yeah. I
I'm gonna
wish.
get angry emails from BlackBerry about that. No, but so we are here with Upstream number 8. There's a lot of things that we can actually be talking about. We just had a BlackBerry Security Summit. Jubei, who's here in the chat with us, was over there covering it, making sure we had a foot in the door there, so to speak. How was the experience overall? You did write a really awesome editorial, and I did read it. But just a summary, you actually got to hold the passport.
Oh, I did. I did get to hold the passport. I wasn't supposed to, but when some of the BlackBerry representatives there had their backs turned, I was able to snatch one from, I believe, the president of the. Well, actually, I'm not going to say.
Yeah, don't name drop.
And it was cool. The energy was great, very different than when I covered the BlackBerry Experience New York. Obviously, I wrote about it in my editorial on BerryFlow, entitled "Why BlackBerry Will Be Bigger Than It Ever Was." The energy, it was an intimate environment, pretty small. John Chen opened it up. He spoke for about 20, 25 minutes on all the maneuvers, all the decisions that they've made, all the statistics, all the great positive things, and all the momentum that BlackBerry up until that point has been, developing and engaged in. The room was attentive, and it seemed to be like some sort of exciting undertone among people because they're kind of eager to see what all this new stuff that BlackBerry is creating. And BlackBerry's been doing a really good job holding their cards tight to their chest, They've been keeping quiet where they need to be and being very vocal where they need to be.
Right.
So,
It's a very different. I mean, we know everything about the passport, yet nothing about the classic. They're kind of like front running the passport. Is like this is what we want
and there
to
was
talk about.
there was a classic in the room.
A
And
classic.
there was a classic. There were peaks, but no details could be revealed. And there are other devices too, and they're just not even acknowledging the existence of them publicly. So I can say confidently that there's going to be some really exciting devices coming next year, and they're doing it right. We're looking at like high-end, cutting-edge devices, and if we were to learn anything, I mean, look at the passport. And that's just going to be the beginning of the type of devices we're going to be seeing. A lot of people are like, oh, is it going to be a high-end all-touch? Yeah, absolutely. What that is exactly, we don't know. But for all the naysayers or all the doubters or skeptics out there, BlackBerry has a very long roadmap of devices for a few quarters already in the works in development. So it's not like, oh, the passport's the last or the classic is going to be the last device. No, they got a number of quarters already in line that they're developing now. So rest assured, they're moving forward. It's going to be a big part of BlackBerry moving forward. Their actual, handset.
Did we hear anything in regard to carrier availability of the passport? Any whispers, murmurs?
Yes, I'm going to say that the two major carriers here in the U.S. are going to be on board for sure. We all know where T-Mobile stands with BlackBerry, so I'm not sure if that's going to materialize. But since AT&T has that GSM covered and Verizon has that CDMA covered, then it's going to be relatively easy to assume that Verizon and AT&T will be carrying the passport device. And I'm glad you brought it up because some people were assuming that the passport device was not going to be available for consumers, and it absolutely will. They're going to have it available everywhere for consumers as well as the regulated segments, enterprise and stuff. So
I can imagine if you're going to build a phone in white, that it's not just going to be for the enterprise, like the Z30 as well. moving on from there, we're definitely going to touch on some of those points as we bring along to add into the acquisition talk and things like that. But earlier this week, Oliver Memory, many of us know him by, did put in a beta update of Spot2Fi. Pretty cool that he's still working on building out native applications. I think he just brought in a Tinder client called Timber. Has anyone used any of those applications?
Yeah, I find it pretty cool that he's doing the Spot2Fi because his Snap 2 chat. I think he should keep that consistent, across all of his apps. But he has the Facebook Messenger and stuff. I've only really used the Snapchat chat. Obviously, everyone I know loves the Snapchat chat, whoever uses it. But he develops good apps, and I was very surprised to see he came out with the Spotify app, and I'm hoping that it's pretty high quality because I want to start using Spotify because a lot of people on iOS and Android swear by it. So.
Me on BlackBerry 10, I swear by it. I use it all the time.
Well,
I download my playlist offline, like all onto my device, and I'm set.
I like my native though.
Paid service, so it's kind of one of those tossers. It's kind of interesting that Samsung is actually pushing Milk quite a bit, and Milk is actually their Spotify alternative, powered by Slacker Radio. It's kind of interesting that Samsung is playing in that field. They're playing in the Beats field, and BlackBerry's just like enterprise.
Well, what was Slacker Radio came default on BlackBerry 10, so it seemed like they did have some type of partnership. BBOS too, maybe I think.
And I don't think they've updated the Slacker app once.
No, it's not bad though. Whatever.
But no, it's definitely cool to have a Snap, or rather Spot2Fi coming to the play part.
It's like Songza. Songza came out on stage at BlackBerry Live, announced they were coming out with a native Songza app. What is it, over a year later?
That was before they knew what would happen to BlackBerry.
That was before Google bought them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true as well.
Yeah. So let's move on to the passport size comparison. Alex, do you have anything to show us on that regard?
I think I actually do, surprisingly enough. Let's see if you can maybe lock it on me for a second.
Sure, you're locked.
Okay, so here's just some of, if anyone wants to chime in, they just showed, some of these are cardboard cutouts or paper cutouts, and then some of them are actual devices, but he just kind of showed off how big the Q10, and Passport are.
Cut out the Q10.
So.
Not bad. It's such a big device. I love how it's a 4.5-inch screen, and that the iPhone was a 3.5-inch screen.
Yeah, so compared to the iPhone, it's kind of it's ridiculous. But a cool thing from this is the height. It looks like the Passport is literally the exact same height as the iPhone 5S. And then I think the one cool thing they showed off was compared to a Z30, because for people who have a Z30, this is a Z10.
Yeah, the Z30 is actually taller.
Yeah.
By a fair margin. Yeah, the Passport, I believe, is same size as the Z10, same height as the Playbook. So really cool that it just comes in at such a unique form factor. It's like a mini tablet in your pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like me to expand a little bit on how the Passport feels?
Sure. What was it? Did it feel premium in your hands, or?
Okay, so the look is, I think we've seen images. Everyone has at this time have seen plenty of images of the Passport, but to look at it live is something, different. And it looks really high end. It looks really smart. It's it looks like an intelligent high-end device, and the weight of it, it's not heavy and it's not light. What's also interesting is that, and I have a Q10 here. You know how some devices, sometimes the weight is probably on the screen side, or maybe it's down by the QWERTY side, or the physical QWERTY side. It was beautifully distributed throughout. And when you picked up the device, it was just so well balanced, and it felt so great in the hands. And even the guys over at N4BB, they couldn't stop talking about it, even hours afterwards. And it looks amazing. It feels really surprisingly well. I got to swipe my fingers across the keys. That works incredibly well, surprisingly well. I've talked to plenty of people who had the device at the event, and there were a lot of people with the devices in their pockets, and they were just carrying and using it as their daily driver. And so I was just asking questions, and what was the most surprising or the best feature? And they said the keyboard. You know, that touch capacity just moves so well and works so beautifully. And you know, with 10.3 of course, and also with just all the apps and everything, it's just integrated so intelligently. And you know, it's going to be a hit.
Yeah, I just want to caveat off, a little bit off what Jabay said, but like I was mentioning a couple weeks ago, I just really just want to get the point that people, and Jubay's, his comments have kind of confirmed it, but BlackBerry has really took the term phablet very serious in the design overall, because as you may said, they kind of distribute the weight evenly across the device, which is a great thing, so it doesn't feel like your hand is leaning forward, it got too much weight at the bottom or anything of that nature, because when you pick up a tablet, any tablet itself, the weight is distributed evenly across it. So when you're looking at it overall, the form factor, okay, yeah, it appears very odd, but you're gonna get it once it's in your hand. You will get why it is what it is. And you know, as you guys mentioned as well earlier, over the quarters they have these devices lined up. I just can't wait to see the next iteration of what the Passport is going to be, and what the anticipation behind the Passport 2 could be, so to speak. Just because I can remember back when the Galaxy Note first launched, and people were like, "Oh my God, this phone is huge," but it was a hit. And then the Galaxy 2 launch was like even greater than I think the S3 at that time that was the current flagship. So it's just to say, like, if BlackBerry does come with this full touch, high end device, will the Passport 2 also get that type of favor as well? I'm kind of anxious to see that. And I mean, just to see what the device is going to do from its launch I think, is what people are most eager to see.
Now, here's something else to bring up. Lauren, I want to ask you a question. Have you owned a Z10 before?
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
you-
That
so
was
you-
my first Q10 device.
Okay, so you've had a Z10, you've had a Z30, you're rocking the Q10 right now. How is the screen experiences on those different devices, the OLED versus the LCD? We know that the Passport is actually going to be a 1440 by 1440 LCD panel. So definitely a high pixel density as opposed to what you're experiencing, what you're known to use on the QWERTY device. How do you think that's going to translate over to the Passport?
Yeah, I think, well, it's kind of interesting seeing like the different screen sizes and how much of a difference that makes, because like I'm not super picky about how perfect the screen is or how great it looks, but I know Z10 and Z30 obviously just look so nice, and Q10 is good as well, but I think the Passport, I think obviously it'll be pretty fantastic, but it'll be interesting to see like how big it is compared to the Q10, because obviously both square screens. Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see the resolution
It's
size-wise.
going to be so interesting. I mean, we have the 3.1-inch screen on the QWERTY, the Q10 rather. Then the Classic will have a 3.5-inch square 1x1 screen, and then the Passport coming in at this ginormous square of 4.5-inch. Definitely, just going to be really interesting to see how they lay that out.
And at the BlackBerry security summit, they had the Passport on display, and they had it connected to an HD TV, and it was evident that the screen on the Passport looked better than the HD monitor that they were demonstrating on. It was crazy. I mean, you couldn't take your eyes off of it. It was just that beautiful to look at.
Now, regarding the MHL cable that they use to actually connect that, is it a little adapter that you plug into the bottom of the Passport that allows HDMI connection, or is it just one standard cable? Because it does charging and HDMI. I was under the assumption that you had to have like some kind of little cheap adapter to hook into the HDMI.
On the display, they had one cable connected to the device going in underneath
Yeah, so
the
they hid
display,
that.
so we couldn't see if there was anything else under there. So I can't say. I don't know.
Maybe they were using Wi-Fi Direct and that was just a charging cable.
Yeah, could be Miracast, or it could be.
Did it
who
fill the
knows?
entire screen that it was connected to, or is it like the Q10 is now, where it's kind of cropped?
No, it filled up the entire screen.
Okay, cool.
Wait, how? Like, why? On a widescreen there weren't black bars? Wouldn't there have to be?
Apparently not.
Apparently not.
I mean, you can
No,
control
there
you
were
can
no black
control
bars
the
yeah, there were no black bars on the screen at all.
yeah you can
Good.
control the output over HDMI. I know that. You can set a 1920 by 1080, get the full 16 by 9 screen resolution there. So really cool. How did the back feel? It seemed like people quote unquote calling it a porcelain feel. In the hand, was it like what you have on the Q10 with the glass sleeve, or like the Z10, or something
No,
above both?
it was different from the Z10 and the Q10. I couldn't hold it for too long. A lot of eyes watching, but it's different than I do know that it's different than the Q10 and the Z10. I know the edges. I mean, the whole device was just it just felt really expensive in the hand, and it looked really expensive. And the texture back, I don't know if it's even finalized. I know that Chen, up until recently, was making last minute final decisions on final specs on the entire device. So, but it is textured back, but it's different than the Z10.
That's awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Brandon, are you looking forward to a passport, or are you holding out for an all touch, or what are you doing? You've got your
Um,
Z30 right now, correct?
you guys know me. I'm all about the touch. Um, I just like having the full screen. I like writing emails and stuff a lot too, but for me, I just don't. I've grown past the tactile feel, and even now, I'm so comfortable with my Z30 touchscreen. Like I even find myself typing on the go without even looking. Like I just know which words are gonna pop up, and I can flip them. So. I mean, you can grow accustomed to typing on the fly with a touch screen as well. Plus, for viewing videos and stuff, I personally like the landscape view, but to each their own.
Now, Alex, what are they going to do here? Because we have this Android runtime on the Passport, and some of the scaling that we've seen from on the Q10, some of the
Q10,
apps
yeah.
don't quite scale correctly. So like Instagram, you'll be looking at like half a photo, and then you have the bottom, accent charms and things like that. Are they doing
Yeah.
anything particular on the Passport to try to make that experience better?
So first of all, like if you're on Instagram, I think it would at least be a high enough pixel density where it wouldn't cut images in half. But there are definitely some Android apps that are really bad where it actually literally cuts off the bottom portion of it. And I think if it's not an entirely native app, then you might run into those problems. They scale otherwise. I think if it is a native, it will like push the bottom menu up to kind of fit. But what they've implemented for the Passport at least is a zoom out option. I don't think it's coming to the Q10, and it might have something to do with the pixel density not being high enough, but you'll actually be able to zoom out, so it will give you this kind of the full screen display, and you'll have a black bar on the left and the right side of it, and it's definitely a needed thing for at least, the broken Android apps to at least work, and I think that's a big deal that they implemented it.
That'll be very cool to allow people at least the flexibility to switch what aspect ratio they're looking at there within Android apps. That's been a big pain point for a lot of Q10 users. Just
Yeah.
BlackBerry with their ear down on the ground, listening to their customers. So you got to appreciate their hardiness and making sure that the customers are getting what they need. Chen, as Jubei had mentioned very briefly, was over in Hong Kong finalizing some of the last bits on the Passport, and likely some of the other devices coming forward. He also made mention to Bloomberg that there are no pending or current offers for BlackBerry. He's not interested in really, seeing what anyone has to offer at this point. He wants to go it alone. He wants to make this business work, and he definitely wants to keep onto the handset side of that business. Do you guys think they're on point to sell the 10 million devices that they need to sell to keep that portion of the business profitable? Brandon, what
Yeah.
do you think?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I personally think that there is a market for the devices. Obviously, it's just a matter on scaling the amount you produce to what you foresee yourself selling, and that's one of the beautiful aspects of the Foxconn deal is that Foxconn, they're a third party um, factory that can produce the devices, and they can kind of scale the production to demand. So it's not going to really they're not really taking a gamble as much of a gamble on, producing X amount of devices and needing to sell X amount of devices. Right now, you'll see them scaling it, like I said the past 3 times, scaling to demand so that they're not going to be losing money on as many devices. Like we saw with the Z10, where there was an overabundance of Z10 devices.
Yeah.
And that hurts them financially because they have to write those off, right? And they're losing money on them. Whereas if you, once again, scale it to demand, they don't have to. They won't. Ideally, they don't have to write down any devices. But I personally think it's gonna, like for BlackBerry right now, I think they're focused on just cutting even with devices, so that it's not a hurting point in terms of the grand scheme of things, so that they're not losing money on it. And I think right now they're just focusing on, cutting even with it, and then in the future, who knows? Maybe they'll start making a profit again on devices. It's really hard these days, though.
Really interesting that you mentioned that, Brandon. Talking about margin, I think they've got a pretty good margin for both Foxconn and BlackBerry on the Z3 devices. You can imagine the Passport device and even higher margin overall. There's actually a comment here that we got from one of our viewers, Sean Jubei. He's asking whether the Passport keyboard, when using it, was more of a clicky keyboard, or you were able to kind of tap around as you would on a touch screen. Do you still have that physical QWERTY feel, or does it feel like an extension of the touch screen?
It's absolutely a clicky, very similar to the Q10 for sure. You click down, it's very tactical, it's very responsive, and likewise, when you glide your finger across, it's just, it moves the screen, it moves the OS around, and you can turn it into landscape mode, and if you're on the web, you can use the entire keyboard pad as a mouse and just scroll through. It works incredibly well implemented.
Was it awkward having the space bar in that position? Because I know a lot of people were worried about that. I know you didn't have that much time with it, but
yeah, I mean, I saw some videos being played on it, and you get this, you get the black bars on there when you're watching stuff, and then you got the space bar in between when you're moving and going back and forth, just different when you're swiping up. I saw some demonstrations of the word prediction when you're able to swipe up from the keyboard. That worked really well. I didn't get to hold it with 2 hands enough to see if the space bar worked well, but from all the testimonies, first-hand testimonies, I'm talking to everyone there that had one, they were just, it just worked. It worked better than they thought. Everyone had their suspicions, but when they had it, they just immediately dropped their Z30 and said, I don't even use it anymore.
I can't see it either, but I'm excited. I'm excited. Because to me, I mean, of course, I blog and whatnot, and I just feel like having that physical keyboard is going to make me so much more productive. Like, I will literally open up Word documents on the Z30, type out an article, and then copy and paste it in. I would love to have the reliability of a physical keyboard like I do on a laptop to actually be able to do my blogging. So I'm really excited for the device. I know it has an end user base that they're really targeting it for. Jubei, can you touch on any expanded what kind of markets we may see this device in? Were they showing any demos of the Passport in any medical applications?
Yeah, in your mostly popular used word, absolutely.
That's Lauren's favorite word. I don't even.
Oh, you got it from her. So they had a number of booths set up. One of them when you first get off the elevator, because the event was in the lower level, and then it was in the museum in Columbus Circle. So lower level was where the event took place, and then on the 7th floor of the museum, they had a floor open with a number of booths with different companies and partners demonstrating their apps and services, eBVM. I actually have here a forum called Fluid Mobility, and we can maybe go into it a little bit later, but they also had Retain Mobile, which I wrote an editorial about. And one of them, one of the bigger ones, was they did had a medical implementation of the device, and they showed how a doctor and a patient is able to use the device to, as far as communication, you're talking about like prescriptions, medical records, how to securely, while remaining mobile, able to access certain information and able to use the device to communicate and, you know, well, this is the thing. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but in the medical industry, there's so many different departments, so many different divisions, and they never really communicate with each other. So, you know, the passport was there, the medical, you know, software was on there, and they were demonstrating mock-up prescriptions, mock-up patient records, and they were just kind of demonstrating how easily you can use the passport to look at the files, to send the files, to communicate the files with patients, with other departments. I know that the camera in the back is going to be utilized. They didn't really expand on how it will be, but you know, the screen really plays into you know, the screen size really plays into it, and the quality of the screen, the way they were able to demonstrate just the application, it was just seemed designed almost with medical industry in mind. That being said, also enterprise. That being said, also, you know, I see people using it for their daily drivers, and they were saying, I can use this way better than my Z30. I'm more productive on it. So I think initially a lot of people saw the passport device as an like just kind of like a, oh well, this is a very niche market, probably only for medical. But ever since its introduction, when John Chen was able to demonstrate it, ever since the media picked it up, and you know, there's been like this craze about it, more and more people are starting to say, you know, how it could be used for virtually anything, and it feels really great in the hand, and you can utilize it for any, no matter what, you know, what career, what department you work in. It's just a very useful device. It's a very productive device, and you know, between the battery power and all its specs, it's a monster. It's a monster.
I have a quick question, Jubei. Now, in terms of like the software on the medical side, using the passport, does this all has to be implemented using, you know, the QNX, or is the passport in terms of the software itself, is it going to be compatible with other medical software, maybe through use of Microsoft or Apple, anything of that nature? Like, did they speak on anything of that nature?
The demonstrations were limited. I know that there's a lot of things that have yet to be revealed that they couldn't really expand on. So when you saw the passport and you saw the demonstrations, it was limited. It was a limited demonstration, but it looked really well, and they were able to, you know, in a limited fashion, kind of expand about its ability to do a lot of things, and they demonstrated on the fundamental, you know, basic level what you know, what the capabilities are. Some of the booths that were set up were kind of similar that way, where they even with like SecuSmart and even with the fluid mobility and EBBM, all those demonstrations give you a pretty kind of a bare bones look at how it works.
Right.
But not really a fleshed out full you know, experience that people can be wowed by. So lots of teases, lots of previews, nothing, you know, enough to really get a full understanding how it's all going to, you know, be integrated, how they're going to implement the QNX cloud, which, by the way, and I think James might appreciate this, when they were having a Q&A at the end, the guy were saying QNX cloud, and the guy said, no, BlackBerry cloud, because BlackBerry owns QNX. He did make that distinction. He said, we own QNX, and it's BlackBerry cloud. So I did like that. I appreciated that.
They need to do something there with the cross-branding. I mean, I get that QNX has its own unique value, and perhaps some of their market clientele doesn't want the BlackBerry name at all associated with what's going on in the vehicle. But at the same time, QNX is so, you know, subverse underneath all of it that they might as well just brand this thing what it is. You know, at the end of the day, there are not separate offerings. This is all one company.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly,
and I think they were driving that home.
Interestingly enough, you know, bouncing right off of that, you know, QNX is a wholly owned subsidiary of BlackBerry, and they actually just added in another wholly owned subsidiary that they announced there at the summit, which was SecuSmart. They actually announced that acquisition there. Did you get to see any kind of demos of what was going on with that? I know the secure voice, I want to touch on that a little bit more while you elaborate. I'm going to pull up a web page over here, but did you get to see any of those calls in action?
Yes, I did actually. There was a small demonstration. They already had the passport with the SecuSmart SD card inside, and they did a quick demonstration on how you could initiate secure, because that's what SecuSmart is, right? They decrypt voice calls, you know, and so they demonstrated it. And what was really cool is how easy it was, how they implemented it into the OS where it's just effortless. You get a call just like any other, and it's just a simple little colored bar that's on the top of your regular when you get an incoming call, and you're able to tap on that and initiate a encrypted voice call. Um, I know that the guys over at JT and Nico over at N4BB actually got to hold the phone and look at it and actually put it to their ear and hear the quality and the superior audio quality over the encrypted voice call, and it was amazing, and it was so simple. So the implementation was impressive, and the voice call quality was amazing, and
Do you know if it uses data? You're saying the call quality is good. Do you know if it uses network or if it uses like BBM voice? Because that uses data, and it's very clear.
I believe that was answered, and I was not around to hear that answer.
Yeah.
I would imagine it would be. Oh, there it is, as it pops up. James brings up the.
Yeah, I'm gonna Shanghai this one real quick for us here. So it is a pretty cool telephony technology that they've built. It's all in this smart SD card, which you see here. Essentially, the SD card is more like a mini computer. It's got a processor here and a crypto controller. That's what's doing a lot of the onboard encryption. But what I really wanted to talk about, bouncing right off of Jubei, it's such a, again, what they demonstrate is such a small part of what's capable. And Jubei's already mentioned that in full. So essentially, this is the smart chip, but where you can put the smart chip is where it kind of starts to get interesting. So not only do we have BlackBerry phones themselves, you can also put these into other types of devices as well. You can actually imagine building a case solution for an iPhone to be able to accept this kind of card. You can imagine putting this into an expandable memory slot on an Android device, and you get the same kind of security.
They already mentioned that. They mentioned that they're going to be supporting. They already support iPhone and Android, and will be supporting Windows soon.
Yep. And you'll see here as well, they've also got something called SecuGate, which is a secure way to bring this kind of encrypted calling onto desktop telephones. So you're on a landline connection, you're able to still get the voice over IP encryption onto non-mobile devices. So you can imagine those pre-installed phones in enterprise can now have the same kind of security. You can imagine maybe BlackBerry wanting to leverage BBM voice onto these secure terminals.
Yeah. I think one thing is amazing that I love about BlackBerry is so many people just looking at the bigger picture in terms of BlackBerry's comeback and that they're trying to pretty much strengthen themselves into the enterprise side of things, but honestly, if you looked at it in the recent months, their biggest thing is like kind of locking down just security in the mobile world. Like this, SecuSmart is going to be so huge for them, not in terms of providing financial revenue, especially bringing that here stateside, and the government, in all wanting to, have this technology incorporated in their communications, and then Google and Apple wanting to say that they can provide security and having to go to BlackBerry and say, hey, we want your technology because BlackBerry has acquired this company is such a big thing on that end of the spectrum. I think it's just something that people are really overlooking. Like it's going to be a standard here very soon to have this technology, especially in mobile devices.
The first announcement after they announced that the acquisition of SecuSmart, the representative stood up and he said, "We actually just our client we just got is NATO, so
no big deal."
No big deal, And one thing I wanted to mention also for James is that SecuSmart right now it's about like the that chip the SD card that they put in there. They did mention that in the future they have plans of just making it software, where it's already integrated into the hardware of the device and not a chip that you have to install.
And
So
see, it's interesting because right off of that, I want to touch on. Actually, we'll go to we'll finish this up here on the SecuSmart, and then we'll jump over to those high margins that they're making on those devices. They're selling these BlackBerries with this smart chip pre-installed for €2,000. Like that's a great margin, and to gobble up the company and be able to absorb all of that into your own is definitely pretty powerful. Chen had mentioned at the earnings call last about something called BBM meeting. You guys remember that being touched on at all?
Yeah.
I think it may have something very, very down the line, have something to do with this. It's called Secu Bridge. Secu Bridge is a terminal box, which you can see here. I'm going to take it off Jubei real quick. And it shows off here that they've essentially got 64 SecuSmart chips all installed in this bridge, and that allows them secure conference calls with up to 64 participants.
So wouldn't that be insanely expensive? 64 times 2,000.
Maybe they get a deal when you buy them in bulk. I'm not entirely sure, but definitely you can see here that there's a lot of money to be made with this kind of security solution. Secure voice is really the last frontier that BlackBerry had to conquer. They already got secure email, secure messaging, the secure MDM, EMM platform underneath. Now they can offer voice as well and all of that. Definitely really powerful to see, what the potential is here with what they can do with all of this. Yeah, but I want to go back to as Alex mentioned, those high margins that we were talking about, and the fact that BlackBerry is able to sell these BlackBerry 10 devices for about $2,000, and in fact, the German government is actually going to purchase 20K more of these devices for their workers there. What do you guys think about that and the margins overall that they'll be making?
Really quick, I want to say answer previous question. So you mentioned that it's voice over IP. So that means that it is the same as BBM voice. It would be using data, so it could potentially be clear. And then with the partnership with BlackBerry, BBM voice is so clear that I'm sure they'll be able to integrate it better, and it will sound like BBM voice, which would be phenomenal. But yeah, the high profit margins, there's a lot of money to be made, and I'm curious how much they spent on this company, because they kind of release all this information about how high the profit margins are and how early they are to market. And then it's like BlackBerry purchased them, so they probably paid, a pretty high premium for this.
Chen had said in a Bloomberg interview a couple weeks back that he was looking at some security acquisitions, and now we know what he meant.
Yeah.
And he said he wasn't looking to spend more than $100 million, so we can put it under that ballpark.
Chen did mention at the opening speech that SecuSmart and BlackBerry had a long time partnership and relationship, and they both naturally saw an evolution between the two of them, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's in that ballpark range, James, because both companies almost seemed like they were almost designed to work together. So
enhance their offerings together.
I think it's also gonna just more on the financial side. Would you be saying if they go away from actually using the actual hardware and the chips and integrating it within the software, that in turns is going to cut costs for them in the long run and still implement a good cash flow to bring in terms of the revenue for its security purposes. But yeah, SecuSmart and BlackBerry they seem very cohesive together. Like it was a match made in heaven almost for these two to be together. The acquisition was like a surprise.
The love is in the air.
Right. I wonder when the honeymoon is, or is that right now?
Yeah, they're in the romantic phase now.
It would be scary to see Apple or Microsoft or Google buy up, SecuSmart. This is it's almost like a strategic buy just so no one else gets it too.
Yeah. And just to think, in terms of the amount of money that may have been spent on this acquisition, I don't even think people are really fathom how big of an acquisition that this really is in terms of tech companies buying another company. Like a lot of tech companies buy developing companies for certain purposes because they want to improve whether it be the UI or they want to give a better hardware experience for their customers. But this here is truly like one of the biggest ones that has a great deal of importance to it. And not only that, I mean, you're really witnessing the genius of John Chen and what he's gonna do with BlackBerry. Just thinking like a year ago where BlackBerry was at, and then seeing them now, it's almost like there's no way that was the same company. So I mean, he's got them like on solid ground right now. I don't think there's anything but up to go.
You know what's funny is that BlackBerry, their market cap is what, like $6 billion or something. How much cash do they have, Alex? About like 2 billion?
3.1 billion
Yeah,
cash on
3.1
hand.
billion?
but they probably
If you
spent
think
some.
about it, so even if they spent all their cash on SecuSmart to make their phones the most secure, that would be less than how much Snapchat is valued at. I mean, that's ridiculous, eh? These days, when like a Snapchat app is worth more than, security or something like that. It's
But
crazy.
the marketing potential. Like a lot of people laugh about Facebook, too. But Google. A good example of this is Google AdWords. Google is making, I think, $31 billion a year from Google AdWords, and that's just sick money in advertising. And then you look at Facebook, and now they're monitoring these people and getting so much data. You can actually now advertise to someone. Say that you want to advertise to someone who bought Dove soap within the last week. You can advertise to 100,000 people who bought Dove soap last week that are female between this age.
Mm-hmm.
So advertising is where all this money's coming from. You look at BlackBerry, security is a big deal, but Snapchat has the users that you could throw in a little
Exactly.
advertisement in there, and it's
Mhm.
it's so much more valuable. So I'm really hoping BlackBerry, BBM and BBM channels, whether they throw stuff within the feeds, just these little advertisements within a social network. I think BBM could really be a big, big, big thing for BlackBerry, even bigger than BlackBerry itself.
And let's talk about that, Alex. I mean, let's look at what BlackBerry is doing today to monetize BBM. Right now, we do have sponsored invites. I asked, what does a sponsored invite look like on iOS? And it's actually pretty simple. Matthew, who's our iPhone guy on BerryFlow, he actually says that he got a sponsored invite the other day for Candy Crush. And essentially, you'd hit the sponsored invite, and it'd launch the App Store, and you tell you to go download Candy Crush. Like, real simple, real logical. But you wonder, like, what the advertising platform is and how they expanded to meet, that different solution there. As well, we have these virtual goods inside of BBM, these stickers that are selling at $2 a pack. There's a lot of potential there. Supposedly, about 30% of BBM users are in enterprise of that active base. So if we take 85 million, take away 30, we're at about 55 million active consumer users of BBM. If each one of those users, again, these are active monthly users, buys one sticker pack, that's over $100 million. Easy.
Yeah, margins are high on sticker packs. I mean,
it's virtual good.
Yeah, like
so,
how much does it cost to create sticker packs? I guess you pay for the artists and stuff, but at the end of the day, you have
but the BBM stickers, they're just scaling them up.
Yeah,
It's not costing them anything.
yeah.
Right. So there's definitely just and Darius has a great article coming very shortly on this BBM monetization as a whole, and so we'll definitely get back to that. What I want to move on to now is BlackBerry Guardian. That was actually detailed at the Security Summit. We've seen it on 10.3 already. It's really cool in the sense that any third-party APK, be it from Snap, be it from the Amazon store, is going to get scanned on the Guardian servers with Trend Micro's algorithms underneath to tell you whether that application is breaching malware or has privacy issues, etc. So really cool that BlackBerry, again, is putting their foot forward with security and offering that directly to users who may want to dabble in Android applications but are afraid of maybe abusive permissions and things like that. What do you guys think of the Guardian move in light of the Amazon deal that is also playing out underneath us here?
Really quick, they did say that I think it'll also do within the browser. Say you just went to the browser and got an APK and loaded it. It's not just within the third-party app stores.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's built into the APK installer. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I know BlackBerry loyalists are definitely excited to hear that, especially with, the integration of the Amazon App Store. So it's kind of a side relief because a lot of people are just like, well, is the Amazon App Store going to be a part of the BlackBerry app world? Are they going to be two separate entities? Will we still have the same security provided in terms of, downloading applications and having to worry about, malware and things of that nature? And so it's a good thing to know that the protection there, the security there is provided. So, just continue about your daily activity.
And not to say that it wasn't secure before. It absolutely was. This is just an additional layer, psychological purposes maybe, or just another option for people when they download whatever app to run it through Guardian and to get that
this
additional layer.
This is completely just for peace of mind.
Yeah, it's
for people, because like the Android apps, they're run in a sandbox on BB10. So I mean, it's already really secure, and I think this is more of like for all those people who are kind of worried about it. It's kind of got like that placebo effect where people are like, oh, it's got that. It's got.
It also could be a huge marketing feature too.
I think so. I think it could be a huge marketing feature. Hey guys, we can secure Android.
We're the secure Android. Yeah.
And here's it's a double-edged sword, right? So yes, it's a placebo effect for most users, just like the Amazon store is really, because you could just get Snap and get all the latest versions of all these Android apps. But total side conversation with Guardian. If you download an Android application and it's asking for file permissions it doesn't need, you can still accept those, and it can still siphon your data, So it's it's securely in a container, and it won't affect other applications and breach in, but at the same time, it gives you kind of that forewarning. It's like, look, this flashlight is asking for your contact list. You want to pick it up? And just kind of can give you that forethought of whether this is actually malware or something good, especially with people using one mobile.
With consumers, they're going to see it and be like, oh, cool, I can download this, and then I can check to see if it's safe. It's just it's a little
makes you feel good.
It works really well.
Right. Now, Lauren, here's a question for you. Do you use Android applications at all on your BB10 devices, or do you use like one or two, or are you a strictly purist native Cascades experience type of gal?
No, I love Android apps. I'm like the one that somebody will be like, oh, this app doesn't work, and I'm like, well, I have to try it on my phone. Maybe it'll work on my phone. And yeah, so I have Snap downloaded, and obviously like there's a ton of, like when I had my Z30, obviously almost everything works and looks great. Now that I'm on a Q10, obviously there's a lot that don't fit. They look weird. They get cut off. So that's kind of annoying. But yeah, no, I love the Android version of apps. I mean, obviously I'd prefer a native app just because it runs a lot smoother. But for the most part, there's a ton of apps that work just fine as Android apps. So I'm excited for BlackBerry Guardian it's just another way for people to be like, oh wow, BlackBerry's so secure. That's awesome. So.
Right. They need to capitalize it. They need to market it. They need to just impress upon it. I mean, I would love when BBM video, please come for one. Like that's a whole separate thing. But when and if it comes, to them, put an advertisement out there from BBM, not from BlackBerry, but from BBM as its own standalone unit, and be like, look guys, this is what we can offer. We can offer secure voice calls, we can offer secure messaging, groups, channels, stickers, all that in one cohesive package, and just let people know. I mean, if anyone knows anything about BBM today, outside of the people who are already using it, is that BBM is this old chat application that died on BlackBerry back when BlackBerry died. There's no conception that there is an iPhone version or a Windows version of this application. They need to just get that out there. We're even on Windows, guys. We're even on Windows.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You gave me a couple questions to ask about John Sims about the BBM and its future too. I don't know if you want to.
My thing was like, Snapchat wants to do mobile payments. WeChat now has Glimpse, and so does Kik. I don't know how you, whatever. A lot of these unique features that were first implemented in BBM are now being stolen by competitors. I mean, iMessage did the same thing years ago. They just took the read and replied or read and unread message notifications and built that into their system as well. So people have been ripping off BBM since 2007. I mean,
but the end consumer doesn't care. That's the problem. Like they don't care if they're first, second, third. They got it though. That's all that really matters.
Yeah.
But I think, with the security heritage that BlackBerry has, they need to say, like, look, we can do all of this and more and securely. And whether that brings peace of mind to your mobile payments is really going to come down to the end user. I think as a user myself, as a quote-unquote prosumer is what I like to call myself, that, secure mobile payments directly to my family and friends, even you guys, like if I need to send Pooter some money for some artwork he did, this would be so cool to do that.
Be so good. Like there's so many times when you're out and you're like, nowadays, like I hardly pay for anything in cash. I like use my credit card or
Yeah,
use
it's
my
hard to
debit
split
card.
bills with that.
So if I want to like, or if like my friend buys me a drink or something, I want to get him back, like and pay him back another day. I usually never have cash, so it'd be so
Yeah.
convenient if you could just like tap your phone and be like, here, man, here's like $5, or just send them a BBM with your money, and
Yeah.
like it
It's
gets
coming.
securely. Like
It
that would be
is. It
so
is.
How
good.
long though? Did they have been
Well,
talking about it?
BlackBerry earlier this year. I don't know if you guys remember, but they announced
Yeah.
what is it? Endstream, Upstream? Did they steal the name
And
from us?
and
Or did
Stream
they
is like
steal it?
some consortium that like they
Yeah.
have in Canada between all the telcos and BlackBerry's kind of providing like security for mobile payments. But I also think that BlackBerry, I forget who the new guy who's in charge of BBM is at BlackBerry, but he mentioned that they were looking into mobile payments specifically through BBM. And we know that BBM in Indonesia they have payments
BBM
through
money, I
BBM.
think.
Yeah, BBM money
Yeah.
exactly.
It's
It's
really
just
cool. I think you can send like up to $500 per transaction type of
Yeah,
thing from your bank, and it's like bank to bank. That's what's cool. That it's not like I'm sending you a PayPal and it's somewhere third party like in the cloud.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
actually like a
Right.
bank
I
to
think
bank
it needs to
secure connection.
be. Yeah, it needs to be clear. John Sims made it clear that they will not launch this feature without the partnerships of the financial, establishments. All the banks are on board and everything's secure. They're going to do it differently than PayPal, which is important. And um, they're not gonna make an early mistake in the old management team where they're gonna launch something before it's really fleshed out and done properly and ironed out or half baked or some sort of beta. It seems like some sort of beta.
Speaking of
wow.
beta, I mean the BBM Windows just went into beta. Actually, it just came out of beta, but
Yeah.
it's still in beta. How do you guys like the native experience that they're bringing there, the Windows application?
Honestly, I feel bad for Windows Phone. I mean, like Instagram's on beta, BBM's on beta. It's like one of these days, all the apps will come out of beta.
One
But
day. Maybe
it's
when
really
they get a
nice.
cohesive platform, maybe then.
Yeah, I
I
really like
think
the user interface for the Windows BBM app.
yeah.
That's the one
I'm so
striking
sorry for
thing that
them.
everybody says is like, oh, the user interface. It looks really nice and clean. I don't have a Windows Phone. I don't know anybody who has one, so I don't really know about the functionality aspect. But
They're just
visually, purely
missing,
visual, looks nice.
I feel better about telling a Windows Phone user to get BBM now than I do for an Android or iOS. So I wouldn't say
Yeah,
feel bad for
for
them.
sure.
The fact that it's native, this is a huge thing. BlackBerry knows this, and they're going to make iOS and Android native. But I wonder
Yeah,
if it's will they just how difficult will it for them to do this? Like, will they redo it from scratch? I don't think so. Will it just be changing some of the UI elements, and they could actually get an update out within a week?
So
You know
this
what they
was
have?
discussed at the security summit, and during the Q&A, and um, they did mention in the past they thought it was a wise idea to have BBM cross-platform, that the apps on the Android, iOS be work like BB10. Now all the current management is like that was probably not the best idea. They are going to make BBM completely native on each platform, so it works seamlessly with whatever device that they have, and it's going to be pushed out like it has been on consistent updates. Ever since the division has been created, John Chen established, the 4 divisions of BlackBerry. We saw consistent, say about every 2 to 3 months, consistent updates for BBM, and that's going to continue to roll out. And they're going to move in that direction of making everything native to that platform, in addition to other updates. So I think it's a great move, and hopefully it will roll out sooner than later.
I think this is a great opportunity if they kind of focus on getting the video and some of the key features into BBM, and then they create the new, OS specific user interface. It could be a really great way to kind of do a refresh of BBM
Right.
for
Just
those
like
platforms,
a
you know?
relaunch. The
Yeah.
small
Yeah,
user base
kind of
that
like
you
a
have
relaunch.
garnered will be able to re-advertise it to their consortium of people.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Because I know a lot of friends that I tried to get on BBM, and they joined like the first day, and then when it was missing a whole bunch of features, they ended up ditching it. And I know if BBM came up with those features and they were also native to the OS, a lot of those people would probably be a lot more likely to stick around after.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend from London, Shazia, she's watching now, and she was kind enough to download BBM on her iPhone when it first started, when it was just, it didn't have all the features. And, she hung in there. As soon as the voice came on, it became it was so much better. And, I mean, how much more would it be if, yeah, like you said, video made its way on there, and eventually BBM money made its way on there. So it's a work in progress. I don't know if it's hurting BlackBerry, the BBM's image, that the rollouts are happening this way and not just being launched full featured, but it's coming. So
I
Right.
think they're hurting themselves more by doing the BB10 look on Android and iOS than they are hurting themselves with giving beta for Windows Phone. And I don't know if you guys know, or if some of the viewers don't know, but they actually gave a unique feature to the Windows Phone BBM.
Yes, it's pretty
Yes.
cool too. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So what they say is, if you're in a conversation and either you talk to this person frequently, or if you're in an interesting conversation with them, there's a button to pin it. And what you do is you click it, and you know how Windows Phone is. There are a bunch of tiles, live tiles, and it'll actually take the direct conversation, like a link to it, and put it on the pin. You can drag it to the top. So I can
Yep.
tap it, and it'll bring me directly into your conversation. And that's something BlackBerry 10 doesn't have. That's something, it's unique to the platform. And I think this is one of the things that you can tell they're putting the detail in, and they're caring about the platform rather than saying, here's BB10 BBM on Android and iOS.
So here's how I see it. Under Torsten's management, they half-assed BBM. They put it out there. It wasn't something they were entirely dedicated to. Now, with Sims kind of overseeing that division and Chen obviously putting the gas pedal down, they're, as Jubei said, just kind of come with these consistent updates and keep that. They're invested in it, you know. They're here to make sure it makes money for them.
oh yeah, that was certainly clear.
Be it an enterprise, be it on consumer, they're going to play both fields. They're going to make BBM make money. It's a channel, it's a platform, and really all messaging platforms these days are trying to be more than they are. You know, they want to integrate this, that, have all that together. Coming off of what Alex had mentioned there, bringing in a native look and feel to iOS and Android, and making exemplary experiences for customers is going to be huge. Already on Android, there is a widget for BBM so that you can have your conversations without really launching the application, just in the background. As you had mentioned here as well, you can not only pin conversations to start menu, but you can also pin groups to your main menu on the Windows Phone. So really cool that they're building that in. iOS, you have nothing special, so we're not building anything fancy for you as of yet.
That makes me jealous now. Like, why can't we pin within our hub? Like one conversation, just let it sit at the top of the hub.
Alex, you're just gonna have to buy a Windows Phone, man.
I guess so.
Yeah, because pinning a conversation outweighs screen share and
Or
video.
how come the hub can't be dark theme? Mysteries
Hey,
of life.
don't even. It doesn't matter because the newer phones won't be OLED, at least for the time being.
Yeah.
So I think they kind of backshelf that until maybe OLED is more accessible. Then
Yeah.
Cheaper.
cheaper. There you go. I can think
God,
of
I
it.
want dark theme hub so bad though.
I know. I want a dark theme hub.
But now I'm already over my Z30, so I'm already on the passport. So
Yeah. So someone had just commented here on the posting that Alibaba, which is the Western version of that was
Facebook.
Western Facebook, no, Western version of Amazon and eBay has just put $250 million into Tango, which is another competitive client. So what was the insight that John Sims had on some of the questions that we asked about keeping BBM competitive?
Well, he did acknowledge that these other companies are bringing these features, but there's a distinction that needs to be made. Some of these companies are tacking on these features, And there's a difference between tacking on and integrating, implementing something thoroughly. A lot of imitations out there. I know that when we look at WhatsApp and they have like that R&D, or I should say actually the check and double check,
yeah.
it doesn't really work the same way. And to the end user, does it make a difference? I don't know. I'm sure they don't know the technical aspects of it, but those are one of the things where he says, these other companies are kind of throwing these features together, trying to hope that something would stick to make it popular. BlackBerry's, there's something about them that when they create software, they build a device, they really put everything into it, all the details, making it secure from the bottom to the top. And although he couldn't comment on some of the future features coming to BBM, he did acknowledge that they are fully aware of all the shortcomings and the competition and all the feedback they've been getting from people from the cross platforms. And they're taking notes of everything. And they're working around the clock to bring and to fix and to iron out and to update all of these things in a timely fashion. So, like there are other announcements that they can't really talk about. BBM does have new things coming. He did casually mention BBM money, so but as far as BBM video,
they ain't said shit. They ain't said shit about it. That's
yeah. So
now, I don't know why that is. I know that BBM on Playbook and BlackBerry 10 actually runs through BlackBerry's infrastructure. It's got a whole video kind of architecture underneath. I don't know if rigging that onto iOS and Android is a little bit more involved than we think, whether they're holding it off for a more cohesive launch later with Blend, or whether it's kind of just been, we're not going to talk about it anymore, let's pretend.
Johnson's straight up just said, well, BBM video is going to be available for enterprise before it's even considered for the consumer side of things. So
it makes sense. It's like I can't monetize off of BBM video. It's a great service to give you, but I'm not making any money from it. So,
yeah, and it requires so much resources to sustain, to run.
Support, keep up. Yeah, I think BBM right now runs about $100 to $200 million a year. Not BBM, rather, but the whole network infrastructure for BES, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So it's expensive. They need to get some kind of return on that. Developers, see if you guys can chime in here. We got two different updates. We got one for a 10.3 version of the BlackBerry app world, I guess pending a 10.3 update of some kind, coming in the future. And they're also removing the apps for Snapchat, apps for Spotify, apps for every app that's not really actually in BlackBerry world. How do you guys feel about the strategic move there to not only update BlackBerry world, break it for 10.3 users, and also kind of clear out some of the trash that was filling up BlackBerry world? What do you guys think?
Finally, honestly, they need to do this such a long time ago. They should even go a step further and allow people to report apps that they see on the store that are obviously cash grabs that don't do what they say they do. There's nothing that
that'll get abused too.
There's nothing that upsets me more as a developer than seeing an app for Snapchat, that's a name, app for Snapchat, that's $2 and it's a top grossing app, and it's not actually a Snapchat app. It's just one that shows a feed.
But you read the comments. I don't understand people. I really don't. You read the comments that are scam, don't buy this app, this is not the real app, yet people are still buying it.
Yeah, to you and me, it's obvious. I would never buy that. I would know better. But to someone like my mom who's going on BlackBerry World, she might be seeing the title of it and then just download it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm with Brandon on this, on the whole thank God, finally.
Yeah.
Or just gets all her apps for free from Snap. So she's like, whatever, I don't deal with none of that.
They have to take it to the next step and remove more of the bulk up there.
Well, you can see they're definitely cleaning it up, trimming it down, and just pretty much making that room for the Amazon App Store, because, I mean, of as much as we love the native Cascade experience and we would love to have it in terms of, the most popular social media apps and such, I mean, there's nothing that can replace what we get from Snap and what we'll get from Android App Store, that actual app that that is provided through the social media site. So I mean, it's a good move by BlackBerry. I mean, me personally, I don't have the update on. You all right, Lauren? My bad. I just make sure. No, but I
He's
don't.
allergic to bullshit. I'm kidding.
No, I don't have the latest update, but just for the fact because I've been running the 10.3 bar, from earlier. But
Yeah.
I've been hearing good things about it, and I mean, I'm just happy to see that it's definitely happening now. So I think we'll see more of it later in future updates.
And on the 10.3 BlackBerry World update, they made the carousel smaller. So again, just de-emphasizing the consumer aspects of the App Store or the BlackBerry World that they have. Supposedly, you can put whatever you want in BlackBerry World as long as it doesn't break the terms. They just aren't going to be promoting proactively in the carousel things like games and consumer fun apps. So if it's a banking app, if it's a productivity app, if it's a utility, that'll be shown in the carousel and on the front end. But really, you're gonna have to go digging for games and some of the good consumer apps that are still in BlackBerry World. Kind of bothers me because we have so many interesting and well-built native games on BlackBerry 10. And the whole games application itself with Score Loop and my friends inviting me to play games, seeing their stats and things, is that just gonna they shut Score Loop down,
They
right?
shut Score Loop down, yeah.
So
It was
here's
actually a really great service. It was cross-platform.
right.
A bunch of games used it, but I guess
Here's the
it's
thing.
not really a main focus.
Here's the thing as well. And developers, hopefully, you guys have some insight on this. But Jeremy and I were actually discussing it. It's like they worked so hard. They spent so much money with developer relations, working with Sencha, working with Unity, working with all these, Cordova, and all these other platforms to make publishing of games and things like that like one hit. Publish to BlackBerry World, press go, and you're done. Are now those developers gonna? Are especially like game developers looking to target BlackBerry 10? Are they gonna press the one click and just port their app natively, or are they gonna rather package it as Android and then put it on Amazon so that they can get it on BlackBerry?
No, you know what? It's funny because in my view as a developer, I think that BlackBerry hit it on the nail when it came to game developer relations. They hit it on the nail. Like for most game developers, they support most of the engines, and for most of these developers, it's a matter of just building, like clicking a button and exporting it so that you can send it off to BlackBerry World. Like they've made it extremely easy, especially for developers that use Unity. Like I think we'll still see native Unity game apps, but I don't know. Maybe for other apps, they might just instead of putting it on two stores, they'll just have the one on Amazon or something like that.
And then there's some other titles there as well, like the like Mega Upload, which is in BlackBerry World as an Android port, but not in Amazon. So it's kind of like it's gonna be a really weird kind of transition period, whether they move those applications over or whether they just kind of sit there and continue to get updates, or what really is going to happen. But Alex, let's talk about a little bit about scaling. For you guys' applications, are you targeting the Passport with a brand new build? Are you changing the UI, or are you just kind of going with the auto port?
Yeah, so really quick, I want to do a PSA that Derek brought up for people whose BlackBerry World is breaking on 10.3. So that's probably for the people who are on 2.9.6, which is obviously a really, really old build. He said that it is not API complete, so you have to expect stuff like that happening. And like honestly, if you're running an old beta as your main operating system, stuff like this is going to happen. It's part of the risk that you're taking. But I just know people made it a big deal, so I figured, or he said we should probably point that out. So to the scaling up, currently what I am doing is when 10.3 becomes a thing, then I will push out a 10.3 update, and I don't want to use, I want a Passport in my hands when I start building it. I don't like the simulator at all. Like, especially it being 1440 by 1440, it's actual resolution, and I have a 1920 by 1080 monitor, so 1080 pixels, 1440 pixels is higher, so it'll actually cut off some of the emulator. I don't know. I just hate emulators. I'm sorry. I want the actual device to test it.
Also, if you have a MacBook and you're developing for BB10, unless you have Windows on your computer on a partition, you can't actually use a simulator to build apps. So all the apps I've made, I've been using my own devices to test them and stuff, or getting friends. But I mean, Like, for instance, my apps, I have no clue whether they're going to work on a passport or not because I can't just send another developer, or like a friend I know, my entire source code so that he can build the app and run the simulator. So I'm probably gonna have to wait till it's released, and I'll get someone to test the beta bar or something like that. I prefer a physical device though to test
Yeah,
it
I
out.
think that's how most developers feel at this point. So most of us will probably let the Qton just auto scale. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And the initial people getting passports, some of the apps might have some problems because
Yeah.
it will scale and run well, but there might be random spacing problems here and there. It's just
Right.
one of the things that happens.
For
And
sure.
we're not going to put the time into it until most of us won't. I know
Yeah.
Jeremy already
I
made
mean,
all of his apps are working on the passport.
BerryFlow
If
app
you're
is passport ready. It is
if you're a
passport
really
ready.
good developer, you'd build your app to be able to scale to most screen sizes. It's like developers like me, like I can, if I put in the effort and stuff, I could probably try and figure it out, but there's always going to be a few things I didn't think of that
Well, when
I need
when
to
we
see
first
and
started
buy in
developing,
person.
it was so
Yeah,
different. That's the
exactly.
problem. Yeah. They what are they using now? Units? What can you think of it?
Design units.
Design units. Yeah.
I haven't even
Before
wrapped
it
my
was
head around that yet. Like,
exactly.
I gotta actually do some math and shit for that.
Right. You gotta
Yeah,
actually like measure it out and make sure it all works.
Yeah, if we built the app right now, we'd be fine, and we wouldn't even have to worry about it scaling up. Like, we'll be fine. But right now, in some of my apps, I have the width set for 768 for the Z10, and it's just what I had to do to get a functionality working. So,
so who knows? To be determined.
yeah.
To be announced later.
Yeah.
So Lauren, how are your apps doing? Are they scaling well for the passport or not really?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how they do on the classic.
Lauren's like, yeah, about that. Over. No, but I wonder at this point, is there a lot more you can do on that kind of screen? I mean, it's a huge screen, but you're still kind of stuck to the 1-to-1 ratio. Would you guys consider building, a whole different type of user interface for that device, or you're just kind of going to tweak it and just make sure what you already have works well?
I mean, the Qton, like, we kind of optimized for the Qton, and it's really, I think, as long as it matches Qton, there's some things we can do, because reaching the top left screen might be a little bit more difficult than on the Qton, but...
The tough thing with the passport is because it's not just a difference in height, it's a difference in the width as well. So for the Q10, I could use a lot of my existing code that was for my Z10 screens, and I just had to change the height for height-specific objects. But for the passport, it might be different. I might have some set heights for the width, and because it's so much different than the other widths, I'd have to actually go and be cognizant of changing that.
Absolutely. Now, while we're stuck on these resolutions, what would you guys do if BlackBerry brought out a slider device? I've actually been hearing some rumors and some murmurs internally about a slider device. I mean, we heard about the Milan, which was essentially a Z10 with a Q10 keyboard. You have a slide effect like the 9800s and 9810s. What do you guys think? Would a passport, not a passport, rather, would a slider device make more sense as a passport with a slide up keyboard, or a 16:9 vertical type 9810 type slider?
I think it
16
only,
by 9.
Yeah, I think it only answers like kind of gives an answer or a solution or remedy, so to speak, to those who don't want that one-in-one ratio screen from the passport, and they still want the full feature from a Z10 or a Z30, and still get the physical keyboard that you do from a passport, so to speak. So it's only going to satisfy like that specific audience in terms of BlackBerry device users. But I would love to see it, definitely.
What I didn't get is like, honestly, like I would have like almost expected BlackBerry to just after the Z30 just go all in on like a slider to please both crowds, to please the touch crowd and the keyboard crowd, so that you could have the best of both worlds on one device.
The only thing with that is that the slider model is only uniquely popular in America. You look
Really?
internationally, and most people are not interested in sliders at all.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that.
that would be like a region-specific device, if anything, if there's going to be any success to be had.
So, did any of you guys get a little email, a strictly confidential email from BlackBerry in regard to it? Any kind of beta invite of any kind? We're not going to say it's a 10.3 beta at all, but did anyone get any kind of email in regard to any kind of particular beta out there?
Nah.
I got invited. I filled out the survey. We'll see if I get chosen. Probably not.
Now that you said you got
BBM.
invited, they're going to watch this and be like, well, you know what? No, Brandon.
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to say that, Brandon. No.
Yeah, no.
Did you already just break your NDA? No, I'm just
Yeah.
Can't even
And
talk
like
about
I
the email.
filled out so many surveys for the BBM beta. I was like the best BBM tester, and then they ditched me. So
It's almost like there's you got to hit right in the middle. You can't try too hard, and you can't not try.
Yeah, I've noticed
I know.
that. In my profile, I have I use my phone for 16 hours a day, and I said like the maximum for everything, and then I'm like, yeah, that actually probably looks really bad.
They're like, this bitch looks desperate.
Yeah.
But Lauren, I want to hear what your thoughts are, because you swap devices around quite a bit of late. It seems nothing satisfies you apparently.
Yeah.
Would you buy a slider? Would that interest you at all?
Yes, it would. There's all these devices that I never got, like the freaking torch, because it was only on AT&T, and I always wanted it, and now it's so out of date, and I still want it. So, if they had a slider, I would buy it.
That is
The end.
She's co-signing that right there, guys. She wants a slider. She wants all the BlackBerry devices she can get her hands.
Yes.
So I want to also just briefly, I don't even know if it deserves the airtime, but Alex is already kind of locked on it. Let's all collectively laugh at Typo 2. So the left we have Typo 1, and on the right we have Typo 2.
Yes, you can see why they got sued here and how ugly it is here.
Yeah, it just looks like something from like the dollar store, like something you pick up for like $15 for your grandma. Like, here you go, slide this on your phone.
I would consider buying the one on the left, but
Yeah, the one on the left looks nice, but the one on the right is kind of like.
But that's good. That's good. Go BlackBerry. They did this.
Is there like one letter in a different position on the one on the right just to like make
It's pushed
the
to
patent
the.
Yeah,
invalid or
they
something?
pushed it in a little bit and got rid of the threads.
Did you notice that? But I think BlackBerry has this patented. Even on the virtual keyboard, the middle row, A to delete, it spans across the entire width. Whereas on iOS, Android, Windows Phone, it pushes the middle row in. It doesn't take off, and there's a little bit of spacing. They may have patented that.
I think they did with the full length screen rather. What's interesting about the Typo is it doesn't do much at all. I mean, if the case was
It
like
uses more battery.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, if it was a Mophie case with a keyboard, like that'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
But it's not. It's just like a tack-on, and it's like this is a design product from two dudes who just didn't want to go back to their Blackberries. It's just like
that keyboard looks more narrow than the style.
Right. It's just like just looks kind of awkward, and I know it probably works well. I mean, after two revisions, you'd think it worked well, but at the same time, it's like if BlackBerry actually built something like this, took the Passport keyboard and put it onto other devices, imagine how much they would sell that shit.
Yeah, build like a QWERTY like attachable keyboard that has like a rechargeable battery inside,
and the touch sensitive,
and it has data, and it has data inside. It has like like a memory like disk or something inside for extra like
storage. Yeah,
storage for like music and stuff, right?
That'd be kind of dope.
Yeah,
it's rake in the money.
I follow like the Q10 tag on Instagram, and I was looking through the pictures the other day, and I saw somebody who had tagged the Q10, but it was a picture of an iPhone with a typo, and they were like, "Oh, I really loved my Q10, but I couldn't stand the screen size, so I'm back to my iPhone BlackBerry." And I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know people bought that."
It's like to me, it's kind of confusing because it's like BlackBerry does not want to build a portrait QWERTY. They'd seem like so opposed to it. They'd rather build a slider than something that looks like a typo but running BlackBerry 10. And I really feel like people, at least for pocketability's sake, will really, really appreciate it. Because the Passport, it's a little bit cumbersome and wide. I know, again, it has its tailored market, base that they're aiming for, but something like a Typo, so like a Z10 with a keyboard at the bottom would sell, in my opinion. I think people
I
would be
think so too.
literally the best of both worlds.
Typo has to feel so awkward in your pocket though. Like, damn, the Passport, like a Typo, it's probably like sticking out. Like one host.
It's probably breaking. It's probably
iPhone 5
breaking a
is
few
still
days
kind
after
of
you
short
use it.
compared to like the iPhone 5 is still kind of short compared to like competitor phones, like other phones. So I mean, even with the Typo, the iPhone 5 probably isn't even like that much bigger than like your generic like Samsung device, right?
Yeah, it's probably just like right around this Galaxy Mega size or so.
The first Typo actually looks very nice. I have to
like
admit
it.
it.
It
Like,
does.
it
But it's
looks
because
just
it's
like
a
a
gold
Q10.
keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, keyboard.
It just looks like clean, and it's like, wow, that looks iconic almost,
Yeah.
And then we got this Typo 2 shit. So, I mean, what are you guys thinking at this point? What are you guys most anticipating?
Awesome.
Are we looking at 10.3? Are we looking at Blend? Are we looking at Passport? Are we looking at a little bit of all three? What are you guys most anticipating at this point? Blend.
Blend.
It's not. Can you guys stop with the S at the end? It's Blend. It's
Yeah, you
trademark
guys
Blend,
seriously.
not
Lens.
I'm looking for 2015s
Right.
and what holds for BlackBerry. Like once everything's out there on the table, and then for BlackBerry to also announce upcoming devices and software. Hell, maybe even see tablet somewhere later in the end of the 2015 year, beginning with the 2017 fiscal year. That would be pretty dope.
So here's two questions that we've got within the comment section. So we had one that was referring off to Jubei in regard to marketing. Was there any talk of marketing at the BlackBerry Security Summit?
Yes, there was. JT over at N4BB asked, and it really, and it was covered a little bit when I asked a similar question at BlackBerry Experience New York earlier in the spring. They are going to do marketing. The two things they want to have ready before they do a full launch is have the devices and have OS 10.3 fully fleshed out. They need to be able to stand 110% behind their product and services. They're not going to market something that's not complete. So you can expect marketing.
So that's why the Z10 didn't sell. Okay.
Yeah. So in addition to that, they will be doing marketing through conventional methods. So you're going to see
traditional, expensive
traditional, right? You're going to see the newspaper, the commercial television ad. You're going to see billboards. So to what extent that campaign may be, I'm sure the geniuses over there are figuring out how to advertise 10.3, the new devices, in a slick, savvy, sexy, exciting way.
And I know Darius had mentioned, him wanting to get BlackBerry into sporting events, into NFL, and just get them out there. Be it a 10-second spot, be it a 30-second spot, be it a voiceover type of advertisement. I believe Blaze in our group actually heard a voiceover advertisement during MLB, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was dope. But just simple things like, banners along football fields or the soccer stadiums, different things like that. So as you're viewing the game, you're constantly seeing this brand on your TV screen. Those are things that really, catch people's eyes because they're always viewing it. And then, just like I said, with this upcoming football season, NFL is the one sport that generates the most money in the States. And they don't just generate money in the States, they generate money across the globe. So if you're advertising your brand during these games on national television, that helps to put, the word of your brand, what you're bringing to the table, devices, software, is going to give it a huge voice and a bigger stage. And I know those are things I feel like BlackBerry needs to definitely take advantage of.
I just want to chime in here quickly because you were mentioning how BlackBerry needs to put in those banner ads in stadiums and stuff, and I find it interesting because BlackBerry actually has ads at the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Air Canada Centre and in the Rogers Centre, which is where the Blue Jays play baseball.
But that's
And
Canada.
yeah, it's Canada.
That's Canada. It has to be in.
But they have those ads there in high volume places,
Yeah.
and BlackBerry is actually doing really well here in Toronto. So there's a bit of it there's a lot of it that has to do with the financial district aspect of it too. But I'm sure like the marketing and advertisement aspects of it in Toronto don't hurt either. I'm sure those are contributing to it as well to an extent.
No, it's just, and exactly the type of success and what they're doing there is what I want. I would love to see them transition here to the States. And I'm just giving like the NFL, an example of what they could try to take advantage of in terms of marketing and branding. Because just saying your name, you don't have to, if you pay attention to what Samsung does, and for example, what they did do was with the NBA All-Star game, which is back in February, and it was like the NBA All-Star game presented by the Galaxy S5, and the device was up and coming. So, and well, actually, with just Galaxy devices, if I'm not mistaken, but they were trying to brand something specific instead of branding Samsung Mobile as a whole. So that's what I want to see BlackBerry do.
They got to do it smart, though. I mean, Samsung, they spend billions on advertising alone annually, and the Samsung Galaxy S5 device didn't really sell that well. So, hopefully with BlackBerry, they can find a more intelligent way to reach the masses without just throwing money away, burning through their cash.
Yeah, we don't want them to be like Microsoft and then have to pivot after spending all this money. What I would love to see, and Jubei, I'm sure we've talked about it before in our little musing sessions, where, I would love them to be like, we got a Passport, we got a Classic, we got a Z3, we got a Z3 Plus, we got Blends, we got 10.3. This is all of it at once, one advertisement to show the portfolio. Not one for one device, not one for one service, but show me BBM, show me the phone, show me and retell me what BlackBerry is and why I should care.
Yeah, you mentioned also like guerrilla marketing techniques. Those are really effective too. Low cost, but highly effective. Bringing awareness to
high yield
the brand. Yeah, it's like low risk, high rewards. Scenario for BlackBerry.
So the last two things here. We want to tie it up. We've been here almost like an hour and a half. I don't want to let it drag on too long because Brandon's gonna have to turn this into an MP3 file after. But so we had a comment on the site, and it was, in my opinion, they should make BBM video calling that capability available to consumers and cross-platform, and that it's a wrong decision on their parts to restrict it to enterprise. They could put ads during consumer BBM video calls or have the capability to record those BBM video calls, for a price after the fact. Now, I somewhat agree here that I think we need BBM video as a consumer feature. I do think it's interesting that they want to bring it strictly to enterprise first, and maybe as that brings money in for them, they expand it to consumers. What do you guys think?
Wait, don't we have BBM video?
What was that?
Well, BlackBerry, yeah, from between BlackBerry and
Yeah, we're talking about cross-platform.
John Sims did address this. He said that they're going to flesh out the BBM video in enterprise thoroughly, and will then afterwards consider the consumer and engage in that when the time arrives.
At the same time, it's like, why are they giving these mixed signals for? I mean, they're like, oh, BBM is consumer, and then now they're going to be like, oh, but we're going to lock off this feature for the enterprise only. It's like, like, come up with like a consistent kind of message when it comes to BBM. Like, we know
it could be conflicting between the management. I mean, you have to, when John Chen walked in there and slowly started replacing the staff and management over there.
Yeah.
Since then, we've seen a consistent message, but before then, it's always been like back. Remember the whole fiasco with Playbook getting BlackBerry 10?
Yeah.
It was like it's getting it, it's not getting it, it's getting it, it's not getting it.
Exactly.
It's like, So
like, I personally think they should
playing
have
with my
video.
hearts.
Yeah. I mean, like, the video, it's like a perfect opportunity for them to kind of give a feature that, their biggest competitor, WhatsApp, doesn't have.
Right.
But then once WhatsApp gets video, it's like BBM could add video and no one's going to care.
Right.
So they kind of have this window of opportunity where they have to put it in, and then it's actually going to get noticed by people. Whereas after, it's just going to become like something people are just going to expect. So whether they put it now or later, it's going to have to come eventually if they want to stay relevant in the consumer space, in my view.
It's like BlackBerry's limiting themselves, and honestly, it should have just been, which was one of the best features. It should have been implemented when it first launched across, on iOS and Android. Like I don't know, it just never made sense, and I hate that they do that. And they just limit themselves and the potential that you can have and the use that consumers are going to get into it. Because when you have features like that, that makes people who use your application, who use your software, to want to look into more features, not necessarily video, but they're going to want to get the stickers. They're going to want to use the BBM voice to make their phone calls and so on and so forth, because they love this specific feature so much. All they want to use is that. So.
And the thing is that no one's going to go and buy BES because it has BBM video. They're going to buy it for the whole package, not just because of BBM video. So that one feature, it's not like, in my view, I don't think it's really going to entice like people to purchase other products by them. I think it's going to be nice to have in the enterprise space.
I agree with you with like bringing BBM video and keeping it relevant and getting people excited for it. There's a flip side. James mentioned it earlier. We don't know how much it's costing costing BlackBerry to create this infrastructure cross-platform and also keep it running effectively. Yeah. I know that the BBM video for enterprise, they're making money off of that, hands down.
Yeah.
But what money are they making if they bring it to the consumer market? BBM is free.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. I mean, when you're talking about video and stuff, you need the whole infrastructure to support that. So I mean, that's a very fair point. When you talk about it in that way, that's a fair point.
I mean, I think they would love to bring it to the consumer, but right now it's like, well, we need to be financially responsible, so we're going to create this for enterprise where we know we can bank on, and then we'll take a look at the consumer and offer them something, because they're still trying to figure out how to monetize the BBM as it is now. So
BBM may be free, but those stickers sure as hell aren't. Damn. Fucking bang.
$2.
Bought too many.
Yeah. The thing with video is that BlackBerry did state that they were going to bring video cross-platform.
Right, but that was under Heinz regime.
So, I mean,
that was 2 CEOs ago.
Yeah, it was 2 CEOs ago.
I know we're all kind of sour because we were also promised Playbook and a lot of other things, so we have to temper ourselves here. I want to give a shout out to close this up to Curtis. He was actually our giveaway winner for Upstream number 7. So you have this water bottle.
Curtis.
Yeah, this water bottle will be coming your way along with some pins. There's an orange and a green one. Ooh, and you're going to get a splat sticker as well if you want to slap this on your desk, laptop, whatever you want. I've been using the water bottle, not this one. You're going to get an unused one. I'm using this one. So, they work really well. Don't use it under high heat because it will burn you. It's aluminum. But besides that, thank you for participating, Curtis. Everyone was real stumped. The question on was what CEO were we talking about? And then people are mentioning COO Marty Beard. I'm like, he's not a CEO anymore, guys. I'm sorry, but you're wrong. That's not.
It was a good guess, though.
It was. It was a tough one. It made you watch. You definitely had to watch to know who we were talking about. People were like Torsten Hines. No, he's not. No, he golden parachuted a long time ago, guys. Yeah. But no, I really appreciate having you guys on for this Upstream number 8. 2 months, we're still rocking it.
Wait, you never said the answer.
It was Marissa Mayer.
Yeah, you just totally let everyone off, and then you're like...
Go watch number 7 if you want to know what I'm talking about. I know, what a tease. What a tease these past couple of days. I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more in regard to BBM meetings and the passport coming up this next month. So keep an eye out for that stuff. I'm sure someone's sitting on a leak for 10.3 right now, and we'll probably release it soon. So we'll never know. I don't know anything. Just saying.
You really think that?
Just another tease. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate having you on. You have a good rest of your night, guys.
Yeah. Take it easy.
Later.